Hello, everyone, and welcome. Polly here. Thank you for joining V. Today, we are going to be talking about meditation with intonation. So, what this is, meditation with intonation, as you might guess, it's basically making sounds while you meditate. So, much like our videos on meditation with movement, this is going to be whatever you find meditation most comfortable to be, while also being able to make sounds in some way. And let's jump right into how you can do that. So, most commonly, meditation with intonation is making a single long sound with the mouth or rhythmic chanting, which is briefer repeated sounds. Now, the single long sound doesn't have to be done with the mouth. It can also be done. It can be done with the mouth open or closed, but you can do this as long as your body is making some kind of sound. And if that is something that you are not comfortable with, this is where you can get an instrument involved, usually a percussion instrument like a small drum, something like that, or a pipe or a flute if you're called to that. So a single long sound usually involves the entire breath. So it's a and then as you're, and we'll do an example of this in a bit, but it's one long sound out. And again, as we said, it can be mouth open or closed, but it's usually connected to some kind of a very deep, still practice. So it's often an individual practice, and it can be done in groups, but it's often for people who want to do it as a individual meditative, something to enhance their own meditative practice, because it can give you something to focus on. It's usually done with no other instruments, or you may have like just a single tone. So I know that it can be easy to have look up a single tone on a device such as your phone, or otherwise you have like a bell or something nearby. Again, giving you something to start with and focus on before you do the full tone yourself. And then on chanting, so chanting is the same short sound repeated, or it can also be a longer phrase. It may be several sounds or tones that are in a pattern, and then that is repeated. But the point is that it is kind of a chant is a repeating sound or sounds, usually involving shorter breaths. So it's a very kind of thing. And when there's no actual words, it can be even when there's no actual words, it can be very similar to speaking, is one way to think of it, or singing, perhaps. It also involves often some kind of dancing or simple movement. It doesn't have to be your whole body dancing while you're doing a chant, but that is common. And there's often involves other instruments, especially percussion instruments. So again, as an example for a long single sound, that would be just like a oh. And then for the chanting, it's more of a oh, hey, 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 or it could be several sounds together, like something that V don't use personally, but this is a nice generic example, would be like to say do, ra, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, ra, mi, fa, and put that into some kind of a repetition for yourself. Again, it's whatever works best for you, and there's so many examples out there, and we'll get to some of those in a minute. So why would you do something like this? Why intone while you're doing your meditation or exercises? So this intonation, like the pineal gland activation, the gland that's in the middle of your brain and often connects our ordinary and non-ordinary perceptions, and intonation resets your nervous system and aids in, if you do actual pineal gland activation, intonation can help with that. Primarily, and in my opinion and others, this is because it does stimulate the vagus nerve that goes, the nerve that runs from the base of your brain stem all the way down into your guts. It basically runs all along your spine. And this can help with heart rate, digestion, respiration, inflammation, and mood relaxation, because it's basically connecting, like it's kind of balancing your entire body with a tone or tones. Of course, it clears your breath ways, stretches the muscles like in the throat and the chest, helps with your diaphragm, which is very good for just breathing in general, especially meditative breathing, having good relaxing control of your diaphragm. It can give you a focal point while you're meditating. And of course, it also aids with speaking clearly and singing, if that is something you like to do, giving those vocal cords a good workout. So why we do intonation with meditation, which I do sometimes, it can help me feel very balanced, whole physically, just simply being in that peaceful state of meditation or whatever it is that I'm doing for an exercise, having that intonation reverberating from me or near me can actually help me feel balanced. It feels very enlightening. It actually feels like, again, that whole feeling. It feels very mentally and spiritually. We feel very uh, uh, lighter, really. Almost, it's probably because, in my opinion, my intonation, you're dissipating your energy just a little bit, but it's still staying close to you. And so we feel a little more open with that. And it does indeed open new perceptions that otherwise simply we can't experience without doing the intonation. It helps me to calm down and just feels wonderful. I mean, if I ever am riding in a car or something, we do this and it really can just help us to relax and just set a tone or start sometimes, singing in the car. It'll inspire me to sing a song. But it feels so wonderful because literally like my whole self is vibrating and that just feels so good. So um, let's touch on some different forms of intonation from around the world here that we have from ChatGPT. Thank you so much. Um, First of all, there is, I believe this is India, there is Vedic chanting and mantras. So the sound Om, which we are going to use later in a longer example, we are going to give a much longer example of single tones and also different examples of chanting. And the single sound Om is often universally understood by people, um, dis- regardless of religious or spiritual background or cultural background. However, in Vedic chanting, Om is used because it is considered to be the primordial vibration of the universe. This is specific to Hinduism, I believe, and is used in meditation to connect with universal energy. It's kind of like where all things began from. Mantras are used as recitation of sacred phrases in Hindu and yogic traditions to focus the mind and invoke divine energy. Tibetan Buddhism mantras are chants recited to cultivate compassion and mindfulness. Overtone singing, something I'm a fan of, is to produce multiple harmonic tones simultaneously, believed to create spiritual vibrations and altered states of consciousness. China and Taoist practices, there is Qigong toning, which is healing sounds, specific sounds vocalized to balance the energy in different organs and promote healing. Chanting in meditation also connects practitioners to natural elements. In Japan, there is Zen chanting, which is Somyo, Buddhist liturgical chanting performed in a monotone or melodic rhythm, focuses on mindfulness and reverence. And then there's Kinhin. Sorry, there's different pronunciations of that. I believe Kinhin's a popular one. Walking meditation accompanied by soft chanting. In Native American traditions, there is native tribes using vocal tones and chants in ceremonies and healing practices to connect with ancestors, spirits, and nature. Songs are often accompanied by drums and rattles to amplify the meditative experience. In Islamic Sufi chanting, there is the dhikr, repetition of divine names or phrases in rhythmic or melodic patterns to reach a state of spiritual ecstasy and connection with God. In Africa, tribal chanting and songs in various spiritual traditions, there are repetitive chants and vocalizations used in rituals to honor ancestors, invoke spirits, or enter trance states. In Western Christianity, Gregorian chants involve the melodic recitation of prayers in unison, promoting deep focus and a sense of reverence. Modern Christian practices may include something called taze singing, a form of repetitive meditative singing. In Polynesian and Hawaiian chanting, there is the Hawaiian oli, sacred chants used for blessings, storytelling, or connecting with the divine. And Polynesian chants often in general accompany dances or rituals and are deeply tied to ancestral wisdom. In modern sound healing, finally, there is toning, non religious practices where individuals sustain vowel sounds to create resonance in the body. It's very similar to what we do. It's a very, I should say, what's the term when it's, it's not secular, but we do it for spiritual reasons, but we're not tied to a particular like brand of spirituality for this. We just enjoy the feeling of it and how it connects with our own idea of spirituality. In modern sound healing, there's also kirtan, which is adopted from Indian traditions, involves call and response chanting, and has become popular in yoga and meditation communities. And now we'd like to give an example, several examples on meditation with intonation. We are going to do a single tone and then at least a couple different kinds of chanting, if we can remember some good examples. We do want to point out that we are going to be using the mantra Om. And this is, again, not because I have it tied to any particular religious or spiritual belief in my own personal life, but because we know it is a universally understood around the world by many people as, and not just people I know, I mean, you see it in popular media too, as Om is something that uh, resonates with people for meditation and using a tone. We highly recommend looking up what the monks do. I believe it's in some Buddhist practices where they do that overtone chanting. They do a wonderful job with that when one person makes multiple harmonic tones at the same time. It's amazing. So let's start on that. There's not going to be any other music today. We are just going to do some very basic examples here for a few minutes. So first we will do a single tone a couple of different times. Normally, we like to warm up a little bit. It helps to actually imagine your throat becoming deeper. Actually imagining, feeling the muscles here. As you relax, if you choose to, join along with this. Perhaps hear me do it first and then you can try it yourself. I'm getting a little more relaxed. The last one felt very good. So now, as you are working on your own tones, perhaps, we're going to go into an example of chanting. So the first thing we're going to do with the chant is just a slow repeated Om chant, and then we will go into one that is very reminiscent of several actual authentic Native American powwow and celebrations that we have been to. We've been honored to be able to attend. Again, not mimicking, not actually tying this to these particular practices. This is our own personal examples and ways that we know that we have seen several intonations in meditative and dance practices that resonate with many people in the world, all around the world. Om. 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 Nipa. Om. Nipa. A little explanation there. Some of what we had at the end of the after the Om is just some of our own personal take on this. A meditation with the intonation is very trance-like 4V. So apologies if we seem to be spacing out a little bit. It's not exactly what we're doing. Now we'll try one with a different chant. Hey, 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 Oh. And we will do one last meditation using a drum, a chant with a drum. And this is a drum we often use to help ourselves with singing, chanting, meditation when we do not, if I can remember how we like to hold it, let it resonate, when we do not want to sit too still and also don't want to get up and dance. It's often a good idea when you have an instrument for this. Remind yourself of the best tone it makes. Well, thank you everyone for being here and watching this. We hope that this was educational. We hope that you can take some of this into your own personal life and see what might work for you. Even if it's something you only try once or twice, you never know when it might come in handy. So again, peace, love, blessings, everyone. And we will see you next time.